Okay, so now what I want to point out is, let me just make this full screen for now. When I look at form.js, we're at like 80 lines of code. And which isn't crazy, right? 80 lines of code isn't a crazy amount of code for a component that is a part of a normal application, right? But I've got 80 lines of code to do this, right? Kind of overkill, right? When we write a function, we want that function to be solid. We want it to do one thing and do one thing very well. I've got this component doing all kinds of stuff, right? It's keeping track of state. So it's keeping track of all my recipes. It's rendering a form. Somewhere, here it is. It's rendering the form. It's displaying information, which, that's not too bad. I mean, we may want this in our form. We may want it in a separate component. It depends on the case. So we're rendering a form. And we're also rendering a list of recipes, right? Is that the right place? Yeah. So it's kind of a lot, right? If we want to keep our code compartmentalized, that's probably way too small. I want to start breaking this up into different components, right? Instead of just having a single form, that's kind of defeats the purpose of using React, right? We want to have it more manageable. We want the form to do the form thing. We want to have another component that does the display. As we go forward, we'd have a header and a footer and all that stuff, right? So what I want to do as sort of just a start is move this into its own container, or its own component. Okay, so how would I do that?
Lift it.
We're not lifting yet.
Okay.
Well, I'm building up to that.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Yeah. But for right now, we're just rearranging. So I'm going to make another component, right? I'm going to make another, call it display.jsx. If I had multiple things, I would say display recipes or display whatever, right? But I'm just going to call it display. I'm going to create my boilerplate. Okay. Z, what's up?
Quick question.
Mhm.
What was the difference between the components folder and the views folder again? Like what do
Good question. So the views, think of the views as anything we would route to. This is just sort of trying to be a little more organized. We're separating our components. Like maybe you could look at components as subcomponents. So like if I had let's just say I had a header, right? That would be something that is visible to the user. But let's say I had like I don't know, title component, right? Which was its own component, but it's part of the display component, right? So I would have my subcomponents in my components directory, and usually the views are going to be anything that the user sees. Okay, does that make sense? See?
Yes.
Okay. You hesitated a little bit, but okay. So the display, let me get everything.
I think the confusion might have been that you're putting all of these components in your views folder when they're not really being treated as views right now. They're being treated as components instead of using the components folder.
Oh. Okay. That's true. Yeah. I see how that could be confusing. Yeah. Because now we're rendering two different ones. Okay, so oof. Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just a means of I mean, it matters in terms of when it gets larger. Maybe I should just rename this components. Maybe I jumped into views too soon. Yeah, let's say views for next week. I'm going to delete my components for now. We'll just call this components. Okay, so let's see what happened. So I've got my form. I've got my app.jsx. What's going to happen now if I try to render my page?
Well, it's gonna be an error because
Yeah,
first of all, the import is wrong now.
right. The import's wrong now. So how do I fix my import?
You just change views to components.
Exactly. So if you're ever stuck with this, right? If you're ever confused with views, if I say // Visual Studio Code will give me my options, what I can import from, right? So I can import main, I can import from assets, or I can import from components. Okay. So if I select components and I do / again, it's going to give me again my options. Okay. So I want the form. So I'm going to select form. Okay. And now everything should be better. There we go. Oh, it's not. It's not putting those as comments. Let me try that.
I think for like this one, the type of comments is the dash exclamation mark. It's a different syntax for comments up there.
Well, no, comments, that's just regular JavaScript there. So that's a normal comment that doesn't do anything. Comments down in the return.
Right in the return. Yep.
Those have to be done with the curly braces. Those aren't treated as comments there. You
There
gotta
we go.
have,
Yeah.
yeah.
There we go. Now they should be gone. Yep, cool. All right. So now everything's good. Now I want to back here, take it with my form. Get rid of the header. Open the form back up. Okay. So I want this to be a new component. Right? So I've got my display component. So how do I set this display as how do I move this into here, right? Where do I put it? I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Have I lost you guys?
Are you just copying and pasting it in there, or?
Yeah. I guess it was maybe my question was deceptively simple. Yeah, I'm just going to cut this out, right? Make sure I don't take the wrong stuff. So I'm going to take this out, put it in here.
You missed a couple.
Did I miss something?
Yeah. 71 and 72.
Oh, thank you. Yep.
You gotta go all the way down to 79.
There we go.
Or 80, yeah.
Did I get it all? Wait.
Yeah.
What's this do? That's for them. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to take that out. And actually, it's already a div, so I don't need. Okay. Save both files, and let's see what that did. Okay, so nothing's broken. It's still working, but my display is gone. So how do I get that display back?
Would you import it into the form
Import, well,
or we import it into the app?
into app, right? Because of what I want is this is going to be my form, and then below it is going to be another component that represents the display. Okay, so I'm going to import it into here. So import, and if it knows where it is, you can just start typing the form or the component you want to import, hit tab, and it will automatically import from the right place. When components are nested, Visual Studio Code sometimes has a hard time finding them. So you may have to just type it out and then do the strategy I showed you before, where you start with a / and then find it. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, so now display. I've imported my component. Now I'm going to render it. And it doesn't work. There we go. Why doesn't it work? Let me find the right error.
It might be because you didn't take the functions part of the display from the form.
Right. So it's saying uncaught reference in display.jsx, line 6. I'm trying to access a recipe, but it doesn't know what that is. Right. So line 6, right here, recipes. I'm trying to map over recipes, but it doesn't know what recipes are. What are recipes?
State.
The state, right? Where is? Oh, this is annoying. Let me see if it'll. Oh. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me. Okay, so where is, or I should say, where are my recipes? Where did I make that state?
In the form.
The form. It's right there. So how do we get this from my form to my display? That's the trick, right? This is where lifting state comes in. Think of these two. Yes, we can lift state now, Devin. So think of these two. These two are on the same level of a tree-like hierarchy. What do you call these if we're talking about a tree? Does anybody know what the term is?
Like branches?
Like branches, but what are the two like leaves on the same branch? What do you call those? If I look at my structure of my HTML, right? I have HTML as the parent tag.
The children?
Children, yes. Children, they're the child of app. So if form and display are both the child of the app, what are they to each other?
Siblings?
Siblings. So the way I think of state and the way I think of lifting state, think of siblings as what siblings are normally like, right? So siblings don't talk to each other. They have to communicate with each other through the parent, right? So imagine two siblings are fighting, and one sibling yells, "Mom, tell Johnny not to come into my room," right? The only way that we can communicate with two siblings is through the parent. Okay, so the only way we can't move state in the opposite direction. I mean, we can technically, but it flows one way. So we can't really go upstream and then go around the corner and take it from form and go into display, right? We have to use the parent. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? It's kind of a crucial point. Everybody's with me? I'm gonna do a poll real quick. Okay. I got confused by the tree reference because leaves grow from nodes on the branch. Okay. Actually, Devin, the nodes are the leaves. We're talking about like a tree, like a binary search tree. So let me see.
One thing that can also be helpful to keep this in mind is like a parent component knows what its children are, right? Because we choose to render what the children are. A child component has no idea what its parent is, right? There's no reference to the parent anywhere in your child component, right? In Form JSX, it could be rendered by anybody. It has no idea who's rendering it, right? It doesn't know if it's being rendered by app or if it's being rendered by some view, right? Form has no idea of who's rendering it, and it can't know that because it should be able to be used in any of those situations, right? And so that's why Form can't provide anything to app because it doesn't know app is its parent. But app knows about Form because app is the one choosing to render Form, right? So app can provide whatever it wants to Form. So it's this one-way line of communication because app or whatever component knows about its children. It chooses what children to render, but the children themselves have no idea who's rendering them. And so that's why that data flows in one direction.
Yeah.
Via the import-export process, correct?
Not the import-export, but the app, right? If we go to app is rendering Form, right? So think of this
exactly, and it's able to render it and have all that data because it's importing it from Form.
Right. But yes. the relationship is one way, right? So the relationship between app and Form is app is rendering Form, but Form has no idea, like Christian said, has no idea how it's getting there, right? So think of it as like not being able to look behind itself. So the only way to communicate between sibling components is via the parent. Okay. Okay, so I think I shared the results. Okay. Any questions about that? I kind of want to like pause here and wax philosophical a little bit because this is important to understand moving forward. Okay. So what I have now is an error, right? I've got app, I've got display, and I've got Form. I'm trying to get them all to display here. It's not cooperating. There we go. So Z, what's up?
So I have a question. This is probably getting way ahead, but so like say like Form had a child.
Okay.
You need to like go, and if you wanted to for some reason like to have Form's child talk to display, you have to go through Form and then go to the parent, and then have them talk to each other like that way. Like you have to go up like the ladder, I guess.
Yep. Exactly right. And that's called prop drilling, and what we're going to get to that. So yeah, so if we had the situation where we had a parent and two children, and then the child had a child, right? If this component had state that this component needed, technically we'd have to go, and we can't really go up. I mean, the way it would work is the parent would provide a function that would allow this component to update the state, and then this parent would have to notify this child of the update. But yeah, we're gonna have a solution to that next week, which we call context. But you're absolutely right. So we'd have to go all the way down, then all the way back up and over to share state. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So let's try to fix this error that I'm getting. Refresh. Where'd it go? Here it is. So recipes is not defined in display. So I'm going to lift my state that is in the form, right? Not all of it, but just the state that the other child needs, right? So the form should still be cognizant of what its title is, if there are any errors on the title, what the description is, right? All of this other state can still be used. So we'll call this local form state, right? State isn't something we can only use once. We could have states all over the place. So this state's going to stay in the form. The only thing we need to share is this. So the state for the form and the display, they both need access to recipes. So we're going to lift this state up into app. Okay. So app is the parent. App is going to keep charge of the state of how many recipes there are, or what recipes are in state. So I'm going to take this out of form and move it into the parent component app. Okay. Everybody good? Okay. So now let me go back to my browser. Refresh. I'm still getting the same error. Still don't know what recipes are. So if the parent has information, how does it pass that information to its children?
Wait, so now form is one with the issues, right?
No, well, technically they're both gonna have issues, but yeah. So the error I'm getting
You put it in.
Well, form has issues, and they're both gonna have issues.
Oh, you put it in the app. Okay, you copied and pasted it in the app.
Yeah.
So we're fixing form first.
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So we could send that a function that performs the set.
Well, okay, don't. Right now we're just worried about recipes.
Oh, just the recipes itself.
Yeah. So the form needs to know about the recipes. Display needs to know about the recipes, right? So let me see what my first error is. Recipes not defined in form. Yeah, so let's do it. So when we're debugging, we want to do one thing at a time. Like, let's fix one error at a time, get that error to go away. And like when you're getting a different error, that's known as progress, right?
Right.
So let's make this error go away. So form, it doesn't know what recipes are on line 15. So when I was learning this, props was just mind bending. I had no idea what was happening. So I remembered it that if you're going to pass, use props. So if you're passing, piece for pass, P for props. Okay, so I'm going to say recipes equals, and then I'm just going to pass down recipes. Okay, so I've added recipes to my props that I'm passing to form. So how do I set up my form to take those props? Should have taken that out.
Deconstruct them in as a parameter.
Yep, exactly. So I could just say props and then deconstruct them down here. But the shortcut, if you remember, is we just put an object in here and just take out what we're passing. So I'm passing recipes to my form. So I'm going to deconstruct recipes here. Okay. So now let's see what errors we have. Let me refresh. Let me clear this. Refresh. Okay. Now we're getting a different error, right? That's progress. So now we're saying recipes is not defined at display.jsx line 6. So how do I fix this error?
Would you just do the same thing?
Exactly. So now display needs recipes. So I'm going to pass recipes to display. So recipes equals recipes. Oops. Fingers were on the wrong key. REC. There we go. Okay. So I've passed my props down. How do I set up display to take props?
Destructure it. It's parameters again.
Exactly. So I'm going to take my parameter list for display and destructure recipes. There, recipes. Okay, so now line 6, was it line 6? Yeah, line 6 was the problem, right? This is what was throwing the error. It didn't know what recipes were. Now I'm telling it, right? The parent has the recipes, it's just passing it down to its children. Okay, let's see what we get now. There we go. Just had it hiding from me. Okay, so let me clear this out, refresh. No errors. But where are my recipes? Oh, I don't have any. That's right. Let me add some recipes. Okay. Now what's going on? Uncaught reference error. Set recipes is not defined. Where is it not defined?
In your form.
What line?
That
22.
Line 22.
How do you know?
At
This is-
handle submit.
It tells you right where it's breaking, right? So look at your errors. It's going to tell you right where it's happening, where it doesn't know what it's talking about, right? So I'm going to look at, here am I drawing? Go to line 22 in, I already forgot. Form. Okay, line 22 in form. Right here, right? Doesn't know what that is. So how do I tell it?
Send it as a prop.
Exactly. Nothing special about functions, right? Functions are first-class citizens. Anything you can do to any other variable, you can do to a function. Passing down an array here, it's totally fine to pass down a function too. So set recipes equals set recipes. Okay. See what we get now. Okay, so no errors are gone. I'm going to try to add a recipe. Get another error. Okay, probably just have to refresh. Or did I forget to save? No.
Didn't destructure it.
Thank you.
Props.
Thank you. Thanks, Christian. It would have taken me a lot longer to find that. So I'm passing down. I was getting all excited. Passing down recipes, I forgot to destructure. So I've got, what do I need to do in my form?
Add that to what you're destructuring.
Exactly. So I'm passing down recipes. I'm also passing down set recipe, set recipes. There we go. Now let's try it. It works. Cool. Now, That doesn't work. So I'm gone over. Do you guys want to do this real fast, or do you want to take a break and do it in the afternoon?
This is really pretty easy, right? We just
Pretty
need to
straightforward.
pass
Yeah,
set recipes over to
exactly.
the display.
Now, I want to point out though, in this case, we're sending everything down to the children. We don't necessarily have to, right? So don't think that just because state is here, we got to send state down to everything, right? We're only going to pass what we need to pass. So because we've moved our delete functionality into the display needs set recipes as well. So we're going to say set recipes equals set
Like
recipe.
our form doesn't really need recipes. You only had it because you had a console log for it,
Are you
right?
serious? Really?
Yeah,
Why?
because you're not using recipes in the form, right?
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Let's take that out. So thank you, Christian. So I don't even need recipes in my form. I was just doing it because I'm not terribly bright. So the form, all it needs is set recipes, right? So this should still work. And it does. Okay, so we're able to create recipes. The issue was delete. So we need to deconstruct in display. And let me take it out of here too, because we don't need it in, no, we don't need this. Okay, so we need recipes here. We also need set recipes here. REC. Set recipes, set recipes. Oh, I forgot something. Okay. Hold on. I was wondering why it wasn't auto-completing. What's my error? What did I forget?
Forgot to move handle delete from the form to the display.
Yep. I forgot to move my handle delete from the form to the display. So I'm going to take my handle delete, because we're no longer managing the deletion, right? The display is now managing that. So I'm going to cut this out, add it to my display. Okay. I was just testing you guys to see if you were paying attention. I'm just kidding. I really forgot. Okay, so let's try it again. And now delete works. Okay. Let me refresh, make sure the errors go away. I can add. Make. Cool. And then if I delete the AAA, it goes away. Everything's working. So, yeah, Z, what's up?
In your form, do you mind just like scrolling down a little bit?
Yeah. You see it okay?
Yeah, so now I'm kind of confused because if you're not even doing, oh wait, can you scroll up a little bit? Scroll up just a little.
I'm gonna try to zoom out. Let me take some of the spaces out so you can see more of the code.
Well, I'm just confused because if you're not like doing anything with the recipes here, couldn't you have just put recipes in state and your display instead of like
Well,
doing
the form still creates a recipe.
Yeah.
So it's still modifying the recipe state. It's just not rendering the list of recipes.
Yeah, so my form needs, where am I? My form needs to be able to set a recipe, right? My display happens to need both, right? Because I'm rendering recipes, but I'm also setting recipes because I moved my delete functionality. Okay, so just because I need one part of the state doesn't mean that I can like leave the state or leave the setter somewhere else, right? So the use state function, these go together, right? So the ability to manage the recipes, keep track of how many there are. Oops, sorry. Forgot to take that reminder out. So the recipes, the collection of recipes is here, but also the ability to modify the recipes is here. So we're sort of, the state is in that central location, and it's just passing down the functionality necessary for each children, or each child, I should say.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay. Lifting state is just, I mean, it's confusing. There's a lot, keeping track of what's flowing where and why. So let me take one more poll. I'm going to stop recording.